It's time for a reality check.
We're here to deconstruct health and fitness trends and provide tangible advice so you can become 1% better with each choice starting today. Welcome back to Reality Check. We are your hosts, Jess and Jill. And today we're going to give you a reality check. We're going to
tough love.
How to own your shit today. If you're not getting what you want in terms of your health and fitness and physique goals, or honestly, just in life in general, we're going to give it to you straight today.
So last week on our 50th episode, we talked about how to lose the old you, shifting your identity, becoming the version of you that you want, right? Today, we want to get into a little bit more of aligning your inputs with your expectations. And like Jill said, this is not just a fitness thing. This is very, very important in fitness goals, but this is a success or goals in life type concept. A lot of times people come up with these goals because it sounds good without considering the inputs that are actually required to get said goal, right? So an example, this is something I had heard on, I wish I could remember her name, Lisa Marie something. She has a book called Radical Confidence, I think. I heard her on a podcast and she was talking about the example of a lot of people might say, yeah, I want to learn guitar. And then she starts interviewing this person basically and asking them questions. Okay, well, how many hours a week are you willing to practice? Are you willing to go on tour with your band and have to spend time away from your family? Are you willing to do this, right? You're saying you want to become a rock star. Now that we've just fleshed out what it actually looks like, is that the life you actually want? And the guy's like, well, no, that sounds awful, right? Okay, cool. It's okay to then change your goal and not want the thing, but owning what it takes to get there versus just flippantly saying, I want this thing, right? So, and again, this could apply to any area of life. A lot of people want the perks that come with being a CEO of a company, right? They want all the money and the flexibility and whatever. They don't want to have to deal with the personnel issues and firing people and accounting and being audited and all of the headaches that come too. The bigger the responsibility and the bigger the benefit, oftentimes the bigger the sacrifice. So this episode is not just about, oh, you have to do more, right? It's about whatever level you're at, that's okay. But own that your expectations have to be realistic based on the inputs that you're willing to put in. So I'm going to give a couple examples that are fitness related, and then we are going to get into some of the stuff overlaps with what we talked about last week in terms of behavior change and psychology, the whys behind it. But then we're also going to end this episode with some homework for you guys and some exercises that you can do to really work through your own goals and say, okay, is this actually what I want? Am I actually willing to do the things? If I'm not willing to do the things, that's okay. But we'll kind of walk you through a process so that you can use a system to help you hone and change your goals as you go. So, some fitness examples that we see quite often, I'll use an example of myself and then I'll use an example of some clients. Everybody wants six-pack abs, right? And there was a time in my life where I had that. Guess what? That version of me had the time to work out 6 days a week and track every morsel of food and be okay with not having any fun foods at social events and this and that, right? There was a level of sacrifice required to achieve that outcome. This version of myself that I am in right now is not willing to do that to get that outcome. And I'm okay with that. I am really great just maintaining a healthy figure that I'm in and not working on my physique. Physique is not my primary goal right now. My goal is maintenance of the muscle that I do have and balance in life, because I enjoy going and getting ice cream with my kids sometimes. And I enjoy having flexibility to do takeout sometimes, right? That level of sacrifice is something I'm not willing to do right now. So I adjust my expectations. I don't sit here and bitch about the fact that I don't have six-pack abs, right? So again, it's not that one is right and one is wrong. It's you have to just own the whole piece of it. You can't just desire the outcome without owning the inputs. Another example that I see quite commonly, we have a lot of women who come to us struggling with some sort of underlying gut issues. And a lot of times we can heal things without doing really severe protocols, right? Just adding nutrients, adding fiber, not dieting, pulling back intensity of stress. A lot of that stuff can allow our body to heal itself. But if we have somebody who has this super severe gut stuff that's going on, where it's like, hey, well, do you want to run this really strict protocol or not? Because if you say you're not willing to do it, that's also okay. But then you have to be willing to live with the fact that your gut might not totally heal itself, and that's okay too, right? And typically it gets to a point where if somebody's discomfort becomes overwhelming, right, it starts to become worth it to then do those uncomfortable inputs. But there's some level of sacrifice to every positive reward that you're going to get. Are you willing or are you not willing to do it at this time? And then it's your choice. I'm not pushing you as your coach. I'm giving you options and saying, okay, if this is your goal, here's what it takes to get there. Are you willing to sign up for what it takes? If your answer is no, cool. Let's shift gears and have different expectations in terms of our outcomes. So that's kind of the whole concept of what we want to talk about today. It is not pressure. It is not, you need to do more if you want to be fit. It's, do you really want to be that fit? Or if not, that's okay. So yeah, first we're going to get into some evidence-based, here's the whys behind it. And then we'll go into active, homework for you guys.
Yeah. And really, like Jess said, this is about just owning your decisions and your choices and your inputs every single day. And I think this is why a lot of people get stuck in this weight loss hamster wheel. I just talked to a woman yesterday and she's like, I said, how long have you been trying to accomplish this goal that you just shared with me? And she's like, well, I'm trying to lose weight my entire adult life. That's part of it. It's part of her identity, right? That's sad that that's chasing that goal. And there's a lot of moving parts to that. But what we're focusing on today specifically is that I think sometimes women go into, and this is because, and we're going to talk about this, social media, marketing pressures, a lot of these carrots that are dangled in our faces every day when it comes to any outcome that we're looking to achieve. We're always looking for a shortcut, right? Of course, if there's an easier way to get to the outcome that we're looking for with anything, right? It's even with business coaches are like $10,000 in 30 days, right? And everyone's like, ooh, what do they mean? Now, I think there's some level of realism. We know some of these claims are a stretch, but ultimately, I think there's sometimes a disconnect with what the expectation is of what we're doing, right? If you're only consistent for 2 weeks and you're like, well, I want to lose 50 pounds, but I didn't see any progress, so I stopped because it doesn't work. It's you don't even give it time, right? So sometimes there's a disconnect with what we're doing and what our inputs are and our expectations, or we're not in tune enough with what our inputs actually are, and we're just kind of guessing and we're like, that didn't work, but you're not really actually collecting data on the things that you're doing to see that there's a disconnect, which is, I've talked about this before, why I love coaching, because the initial audit period is so much awareness for people of oh shoot, I thought I was eating really healthy, or I thought I was doing X, Y, Z. And you start to connect the dots of this is why I'm not getting the result that I want. But at the end of the day, we have clients that are hey, a deficit doesn't make sense for me right now. I'm moving, I'm traveling, I want to be more social. Great. We don't care, right? We want to support whatever feels best and most aligned for you at that point in your life. But you can't talk out of both sides of your mouth. You can't say, I want to go out and party and be social every weekend. And then every Tuesday or Monday check-in, you're like, the scale went up 4 pounds. It's hold on. There's a disconnect between what you're asking and for and expecting and what your inputs actually doing. Right? So that's really what it's about, is just like Jeff said, owning whatever season you're in. If you want to YOLO and live life and eat food and be present and not track macros, great. Don't slide up in my DMs though and say that I don't know why I'm not losing weight and I think my hormones are fucked up, because that doesn't.
There's a disconnect. Yeah. It's again, I keep coming up with examples that are non-fitness related because I don't want you guys to feel like this is us saying you have to have fitness goals. It's no, this applies to literally every area of life. Jill has a huge following on TikTok, right? I might be like, oh, I want to be a fitness influencer because I know a lot about fitness. Guess what? I don't want to do my freaking makeup every day and have to set up a tripod and have to edit videos. I might do it for 2 weeks and be like, oh my gosh, I tried really hard. And she's going to be like, okay, well, I've been consistent at this for 10 years now before I became really successful, right? Two weeks of trying really hard isn't it, right? So again, this applies to literally everything. And it's okay for me to be like, yeah, that's not really a goal of mine. I'll pop in when I feel like it, but I don't really want to be consistent on Instagram. That's okay.
Yeah. And I think it's the expectations too. And being in the fitness space, people assume that things are easier for us because we're coaches and it's what we do for a living and whatever. it took us a long time. If you guys have listened to other episodes, you know we've gone through very different seasons of life and journeys and ups and downs through all of this. It's not easy. It's just what we prioritize and what we own and the evolution of the whole journey.
The stupid, I shouldn't call it stupid. It's very valid. But the poster that's in every single classroom when we were growing up, like, I don't know if it still is, but of the iceberg, and it shows all of the hard work underwater, all of the actions over time underwater. And then you see success pop up at the very, very top, right? As soon as that success piece pops up, people are like, oh, how did you get that? I want it too. And it's like, whoa, let's unwind this here because I've been spending 10 years working on this. And finally, it's becoming a little bit fruitful, right? That's how success looks in most areas of life. Like a one-time little phenomenon is like hitting, you know what? The Mind Pump guys talk about this a lot. Quick success is like hitting the lottery. Most people who hit the lottery do not stay wealthy because they've never learned the skills to manage their money and their budget. So they end up spending it all as quickly as they lost it. Sustained fitness success is the exact same way. If you just get it overnight from some quick fix, you've not actually built the foundation of that iceberg, and it's going to crumble because you actually don't know, you don't have the skills required to sustain it. So it's similar in that way. For literally every area of success in life, for your business, for your relationships, right? I can't say, you know what, my relationships with my friends are really important to me, and then call them once and be like, it's like, okay, I need to own that then if it's on me because I haven't been maintaining that, right? All of these areas, it takes time to build.
Mm-hmm. And then last thing I'll touch on, and we'll dive into these specifics, is, I just made a reel about this, about how with like fitness, so many people are like, but I'll feel more confident when I lose weight. I'll feel more confident when I get this thing. It's the same thing with business or life, or I'll feel better when this happens. I'll feel better after I'm done with this. And it's like, it's the whole process. And I know it sounds corny, but it's like, when you start to show up for yourself every single day and do really hard shit and you build that trust with yourself, that's where the evolution and the confidence comes from, of like keeping your promises and getting stronger and being more comfortable in the gym because you've put in the literal and figurative reps, right? It's not about the weight loss. You're not more confident just because you're a smaller pant size. It's because of everything that you did. When somebody looks at you, generally speaking, when somebody looks fit and strong and healthy, you put in the time and you prioritize that more than most people would. And that's respectable, right? Same thing with people who are successful and work X number of hours and they're wealthy. Most of the time, wealth doesn't just fall in their lap. It's like, damn, for me, I'm like, I wonder what their mornings look like. What do their days look like? How do they balance?
How are they doing this?
Doing this, right? I'm not like, that's stupid, I want that. Or how do they do that? Or making
But a lot of
right?
like, two very cliche things you just pointed out. One is like, learn to enjoy the journey, right? The value is in the process, not in the outcome. And the second one is that comparison is the thief of joy, right? You are comparing the outcome only. If you saw all the freaking hours that this girl works, I see it day by day, you might change your mind and be like, oh shit, running a fitness company isn't that easy. Even though as an outsider, you see the fruitfulness of it and you think, oh, that's great. She just films herself working out. It's like, dude, this girl's working nonstop. If you saw all of that. So stop comparing to other people unless you're actually willing to look at the entire zoomed out picture of all the stuff that they've done to get there. Compare that and say, is that actually something I want to do? Because you might change your tune, and that's okay. Permission to change your tune, permission to have different goals. One is not better or worse. It's okay. It just requires different levels of sacrifice.
And we kind of touched on this, but we didn't like say it specifically, but there's sometimes what's called intention action gap, right? Where I hear this a lot. I'm trying to eat more protein. I'm trying to be in a calorie deficit, but I'm not losing weight. Well, trying sounds nice in theory, but you have to actually do it. If you're not doing it, there's a gap between what you want and what you're intending to do and achieve and what you're actually doing on a daily basis. So there can't be, I'm trying to do this. I'm trying to eat healthy. I'm trying to work out more. You're either doing it or you're not at the end of the day. So audit yourself and be like, oh shit, I'm expecting to lose 30 pounds in 4 or 5 months, but I only work out 1 day a week and I track my food 2 days a week or whatever it is, right?
And we don't do very well over here with complaints not followed up by action. Okay. So like, we are okay with, okay, cool. If that's something you want to work on, let's problem solve it. Are you ready to work on it? And if somebody says no, it's like, okay, that's cool. Then we're not going to complain about it. We're not spending, that is wasted energy to spend time on that. Jill will jokingly be like, hey, I'm just here to jess you when you can't jess yourself. If I say one more time, like, I don't know. If I'm complaining about my blood sugar and she's like, did you start sleeping better? And I'm like, well, no, I know that's my one thing, right? It's like, okay, stop. You can't bitch if you're not doing the thing, right? So yeah, complaints with that. If you are going to complain, are you willing to make a change? If not, try to change that habit because it's really just a negative cycle that is probably bringing you down.
Yeah. And it's like, if you think about, like, I used to work in a corporate office setting, right? And you're constantly surrounded by people who are like, I hate this job, or I want to do this, or I'd rather do this, or I want to travel more. Or you hear people talking in the lunchroom about like, oh, I just want to lose weight, but like, I'm so tempted by all the pizza and the treats. And it's like, oh, I have to immediately leave the room. I can't, there like dysfunction in my brain. I can't even think straight because I'm like, I hear the same complaints over and over from these people who do absolutely nothing to change their situation. It's like, talk about something else, anything else, because you are not doing anything about it.
Or the things that you are willing to work on in your life. Maybe there's a hobby that you love, like focus on that stuff. I'm just full of like cliche Pinterest things that I've screenshotted in the past today. But I saw one that said, I shared this. My husband and I are very different in the fact that I'm very like risk or new things excite me. I like change. I get bored very easily. He is like Mr. Stability. He does not like change. Even if it's good change, it's like, this is a stressor. It said, if you don't like where you are, move. You are not a tree. Right? Like if you do not like the circumstance you're in, you have the autonomy to do something. Do anything. Do something different versus just staying put. If you are unhappy, you have that power to do it. Do it now. Don't look back in 30 years and say, oh, I wish I had taken that risk, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And then talking about like, if you've tried a lot of like different things, right? Like, especially, I mean, obviously we're always going to tie it back to like health, wellness, weight loss, because that's what we do here. But if you've tried a lot of like different diets in the past, but they were more often than not very like general, generic, extreme, restrictive type of approaches, because it's always marketed as like lose X pounds in X number of days, right? And you feel stuck. It's very easy to believe that your body doesn't respond to certain things, or that it's sensitive to carbs, or that your hormones are holding you back, right? This belief is typically a reflection of this like learned helplessness, right? This state where you've had these now repeated failure conditions that make you believe that like there's no point, or this doesn't work, or I've done all the things, I've checked all these boxes. But in most cases, these scenarios, right, have been quick fixes. It's been conflicting advice. It's been approaches without enough support. You're not consistent enough. It's not personalized enough. Or maybe it was restrictive, but your metabolism adapted and you don't understand that part of the process. So you think, I'm broken, or I'm 40 and things don't work for me anymore, right? You've made all of these conclusions from what you've tried, but you have to have agency over your choices, right? And have some clarity on what actually works for your body. And essentially, at the end of the day, what I always say is that you've done keto, you've done Optavia, you've done 75 hard, you've done whatever, right? They're all a calorie deficit with a different mask and name, right? At the end of the day, if your metabolism is adapted, a calorie deficit is going to feel really hard to create, right? It's going to feel really low and restrictive and annoying. But in your head, you think, I only respond to this kind of diet, or this used to work and now my body's broken. It's like, no, you just lumped all of these failures into a category and you now believe about yourself that your body doesn't respond. But it's like one of those correlation is not causation situations, right? You're missing the point here. And you have your blinders on, right? Because you so badly want this outcome, but you're not actually trying something different than you've tried in the past. It's just a different version of a deficit.
When looping back to what Jill said earlier about the process of becoming a healthier person can unwind that learned helplessness, because you start to gain agency over your choices. You start to see this direct correlation that like, whoa, when I week over week for 3 or 4 weeks in a row, practice this squat, now I can squat heavier. Whoa, now I can carry heavy things at the store that I used to not be. You start to see the cause and reaction, like that correlation, and you start to realize I did that myself. And you gain this confidence and this autonomy that then translates to other areas of life. And you start to realize like, oh, I'm not as helpless as I thought. And again, we're not shaming anybody for feeling that way, for feeling hopeless or helpless, but at some point you need to control the things you can control, right? Versus throwing in the towel and saying, oh, it's just a helpless case. Okay, again, if you believe that and you're not willing to work on the things you can control, that is a choice, and that's okay. That's your choice. But you're not helpless. There are things we can control. There are things we can't control. We can't control our environment. We can't control how we grew up. We can't control, there's certain things that we can't control. There's a lot that is within our control in the hundreds or thousands of choices we make every single day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think that's so true. And it's tough to hear women get to that point. And I understand feeling defeat. Like I've invested time, energy, resources into all of these solutions and they're not working for me. But it's crazy how many women I talk to that they'll talk to me, they'll share everything. I give them, a breakdown and they're like, it's too big of a commitment or it's too expensive or it's too whatever, right? And they go do the cheaper thing and they come back and they were like, oh, shoot, that didn't work either. I'm still in the same position as I was when I talked to you 1 or 2 years ago. And it's like, you keep looking for this shortcut, right? But what you just paid for again is the same thing with just a different name, right? It's restrictive.
Or they say, a really common one is, I want to work on my health. I want to work on my hormones. I want to work on my gut stuff. I want to work on this underlying health thing. And then I say, okay, are we willing to dial back running 6 days a week? Well, no. Okay, are you willing to try this whole foods diet for a couple months and just see if it helps your gut heal? Well, no, I'm not ready for that. I just want to focus on physique right now. And it's like, okay, that is okay, right? That's okay. But now our expectations need to be aligned appropriately. If your focus is physique right now, you might be compromising your underlying health. Is that something you're willing to do? And then, yep, I'm willing to do it. That's the most important thing.
Fat loss might be harder. You don't feel as good, right? You can't complain now and say, I think my hormones are getting worse.
But then a year or two, they are like, oh, this didn't fix my hormones. And it's like, well, yeah, because at those steps of each conversation, every time we asked, you said, nope, I'm not willing to pull back running. Nope, I'm not willing to do this thing. Nope, I'm not. And it's like, again, that is okay. It's okay to be not willing to do stuff, but you got to know the expectation of the outcome that is associated with whatever those inputs are. I really like this one too. Value-based goal setting. Every life season is not meant to be a fat loss season, right? Like I kind of touched on this with my own life, and like right now, physique is not a priority for me. Do I feel good in my skin? Yes, I do. But I am okay just being comfortable and maintaining muscle for the sake of health, and sometimes needing to do mobility because I'm uncomfortable because I sit at a desk too much. I'm okay with that because I'm in the season of life with little kids where that's my priority right now. I work out 2 days a week sometimes. Sometimes I'm able to get in 3 or 4, but most of the time it's less right now because of this season of life. That's okay because right now I'm choosing that as my priority. I think a lot of times we also do this thing with food where it's like women will put this value on food of like good foods and bad foods, and I can't have this. Not every food is the most nutrient dense choice, right? If health is my value, if health is my priority right now, I might choose a different food. But sometimes the value might be the time and the memories I'm making with my grandmother making cookies, right? Guess what? I'm choosing the cookies for that value of the time and the social thing and the connection. I'm not choosing it for the value of health in that circumstance. I'm okay with that. I know it's not going to be a deposit in my health bank account. It's a deposit in my social bank account, in my feelings bank account, in my relationships bank account. Those are 2 different buckets. That's okay. They're not always aligned. If health is really a priority for me, maybe I make more deposits in my health bucket than I do in my cookies bucket, right? But it doesn't mean you have to have all or nothing at any given time.
Yeah, like we just moved to a new area in the country and we want to explore and we love like trying new restaurants and going new places, but I'm in like a little bit of a deficit right now. My husband's like, let's go to lunch today. And I was like, hey, like, let's spend time a different way for right now, right? Like, we went to the park and flew Mason's drone. We went for a bike ride. We go take the dogs to a new park we haven't been to before. I had to set up my environment a certain way just temporarily because I'm like, hey, if I'm going to do this deficit, I'm going to do it. So while I value that time, we're spending it a little bit differently, right? And that's important to understand when you're in a season of physique change. It has to be your priority. And if you want it to just
if that is your priority,
be effective, right? Most of the time, this is not my priority. We're going out to eat. We're living life. We're trying new drinks. We're splitting margaritas, right? Like we're not full on YOLO. I still prioritize my health in different ways, but I prioritize those memories and going out to eat and try new restaurants is something we really enjoy a lot more but in this temporary season, my priorities just look a little bit different, right? So it's about making those shifts and adjustments and maybe temporary sacrifices for a second, especially when it comes to physique change. And then on the other side, when I'm valuing those things and being with my family, we're still active and doing fun things and trying new stuff and fueling our bodies, but I might not be quite as lean or whatever, right? And I don't care about that.
And that's okay.
Of life. It's just, that's really what it comes down to.
This goes back to like last week when we talked about cognitive dissonance too. Yeah. If your actions repeatedly do not align with what you're saying, there becomes this internal tug of war where we start to have shame or guilt around our choices. And that doesn't feel good either, right? And I think guilt and shame are good natural instincts to lead us down the right path, right? If I feel shameful about something, maybe it's an opportunity to learn that I ought to not be doing that thing, right? But sometimes there's this unnecessary mental tug of war because you're just not on the same page with yourself, right? So if your actions start to align better, you're not going to have this feeling of, oh, I'm not good enough or whatever. Because it's like, hey, permission to not practice guitar if you don't want to. That's okay, right? Like going back to that analogy, let's eliminate that internal struggle by just being brutally honest with yourself. And it is okay.
Absolutely. So like if you come to me and say, I historically have high cortisol and this is the year I want to fix my hormones. I'm turning 40. I want to feel my best inside and out. Great. When you check in weeks in a row and you say, I still couldn't get off my phone. I was just scrolling late night. I still didn't get great sleep. I only got 6 hours. I'm exhausted when I wake up in the morning, but I had to get all my runs in. So I ran 6 days this week. And it's like, hold on a second. None of your actions align with this identity and outcome you're telling me that you want to have. Do you still want to prioritize this thing you told me? Because I'm going to hold you accountable as your coach, right? And your support system to the actions that align with that. If that has changed and that's no longer your focus or your priority, that's okay. Let's pivot, right?
Mm-hmm.
If running is fun and exciting and you just want some feel good dopamine hits each day with running, and that's great. Like that's better for you. Great. Let's do that. Let's run every day if that's what makes you happy, right? But then don't come to me and say, my pants don't fit right. I'm crashing every day at 3:00. And it's like, well, you weren't willing to do any of the things that so-and-so did when she posted about how her cortisol rhythm is regulated and all of those things, right? People message me about that all the time. How'd you fix your cortisol? I'm like, I gained
yoga for 6 months.
Yeah. I stopped lifting weights, gained 25 pounds in a year and just owned my shit. And people are like, ooh, yeah.
That doesn't feel good. Yeah. I just thought of her name, Lisa Belayu. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, but the book is Radical Confidence. That's the book I'm referring to in terms of just this whole concept. I feel like that was the inspiration of this episode. I want to give credit where it's due. Okay. Expectation management and outcome alignment. We kind of talked about that with cognitive dissonance. We just really want to be aligned with what we say we're doing and then our actions following.
And when you do that, it's like we always say, like ready, willing, and able. You might be one of those things or two of those things. You might be able to do something. You might have time to work out 5 days a week, but you're like, I'm not really willing to do that right now. That's okay, right? Or maybe you're ready and willing, but it just doesn't work with your schedule right now. That's also okay, right? So ready, am I ready? Am I willing? Am I able? If you are, great, do it. Align those actions with the expectation on the back end, you're good. You'll never be disappointed again about the outcome because you know exactly what you're going to get from your actions. But when one of those three things doesn't align and you're not checking in with yourself and you're still expecting your outcome to align with actions that you're not giving, that's when you're going to be disappointed and frustrated and say, this didn't work for me.
A great example, I have a client, she actually messaged me like 2 days ago. She stopped working with us one-on-one, probably like 2 years ago, but she'll still send me updates and say, I feel so good. Look how strong I am. She'll send me pictures. This client, when she started on our onboarding call, told me, hey, and she sounded embarrassed a little bit when she was sharing this with me. Hey, here's the stuff that I'm hiring you for. I'm not really willing to stop smoking. I smoke cigarettes. I know it's not healthy for me. I'm not really willing to work on that. I was like, okay, cool. What are you willing to work on? And literally, I feel like it was like a weight off of her shoulders to be like, oh, this girl is not judging me or pushing me. We're going to work on the things you are willing to change right now. Maybe in 2 years, maybe in 6 months, you change your mind and you say, you know what? I feel so good with these other healthy changes. Maybe I want to work on that now. if you're not willing to work on that thing now, it's a big relief if you can just own it. And again, it's like, yes, would you be healthier if you didn't smoke cigarettes? For sure. But guess what? You're willing to start lifting weights. You're willing to start adding nutrients. These are all also healthy things we can start right now. I just thought that was I think a lot of clients expect judgment from a coach. And I think bad coaches have conditioned them to feel that way. I think a lot of people expect judgment and think like, I know I should be eating better. I should be. And it's like, whoa. Where's the I shoulds coming from, right? My job is to hear from you. What are the things you're willing to work on? And we're going to really hone in on those things. And I can certainly give you guidance and say, these are the most impactful choices based on the goal you're telling me. Now, based on that, what are you willing to do, right? I can certainly guide you on what's most effective, but at the end of the day, this is your life. You're the only one who has to live with the consequences of your choices. My job is to help you within those parameters of the things you're ready to work on.
And that's like a good lesson for coaches too, right? Because I think a lot of times we don't. I think a lot of times coaches with a little bit less experience, you want something so bad for your client and you're like, I know what they said they wanted, but maybe their goals changed or maybe they're not willing, ready, and able to put certain, things into action, whatever. But I think they project their expectations of a client at them sometimes when the client's like, hey, I'm not willing to do that. And that's okay. And that is the beauty and the power in meeting a client where they are at right now in life. We might think the world of them and be like, man, I know they can do this. I know they're so capable. But if they are not ready, willing, and able to meet you at that point yet, don't try to drag them to chapter 15 when they're only on 2 and that's all they can handle right now, mentally, physically, emotionally, whatever. That's so important to meet your client, but meet yourself, whoever I'm speaking to, right where you're at, and take whatever steps, how big, how small, whatever you want is totally up to you. You can fly through those chapters and get to chapter 30 and start biohacking and living life. But make sure you're moving through those paces in a way that feels good for you, not the 0 to 100 crash and burn typical.
And I'm gonna keep going back to this, but being radically honest with yourself, because as you're saying this, I can think of times that I have been a little pushy with the clients, but it's because the client is still bitching about the thing that they're not willing to work on. So it's like, time out. This conversation is not me trying to push. You're still complaining about the same thing. Do you want to work on it or not? Here's the things that are required of you if you want to work on it. Well, no, I'm not ready to work it. Okay, cool. And then next week they complain again and we revisit that conversation, right? I can see how that might feel pushy, right? But I'm saying, hey, if you don't want to work on it right now, that's cool, but own it, right? We just got to own where we're at.
Well, it's always framing it as a choice as a coach, right?
Like 1,000%.
You're not saying you should, you're not saying you should be doing anything, right? Because that's not your decision, but you're saying, hey, if this is what you want, this is what this should look like. Do you still want to move forward with that? I'll give you that choice every other day if that makes you feel better. At the end of the day, you're going to keep coming to me and the options aren't going to change. I'm not going to say one day, just because you asked 84 times instead of 83, oh, you know what? You're right. You can not track your macros. You can half-ass your lifts and still lose 30 pounds by next week.
You can run a marathon every other week, and you can also build muscle and your physique goals and have your hormone health perfect. No, it's like you're sacrificing one goal for another. It's okay as long as you know the options and you know the outcomes and you own it. Mm-hmm. Okay. We talked about some of this stuff last week in terms of a little bit. Our brain gets kind of stuck in these rhythms because we have these dopamine fixes, right? I see these quick results. I'm putting quick in air quotes. I see Jill have quick results in her business because I only am seeing one little highlight thing on her Instagram reel. Social media is creating this dysfunctional thing where we think everybody has quick success, and we're not seeing that I trained in person for years before I ever started coaching online. Guess what? That makes me a better coach online, right?
You're not seeing me respond to DMs and text messages at 10:30 p.m. under the blanket to not wake up my husband because I worked 14 hours and I didn't have time to get to it yet. You don't see all of that. Of course, I'm not going to post that on social media, right? I would bore you guys.
And then you have the annoying people who try to share, oh, I'm being vulnerable. I'm sharing myself crying on social media. And it's like, oh my gosh, come on, right? Yeah. We all know social media is a highlight reel. Comparing ourselves, again, comparison is the thief of joy, but comparing ourselves to that, you're not getting the full picture of that person's life. So try to escape that dopamine trap. Try to unfollow if something feels toxic or you find yourself comparing, it doesn't,
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be negative about that person.
Right? Yeah. It could even be like her life. I don't I like where she's at and I want to get there, but it's triggering for me to see where she's at now. Fucking unfollow me, right? Like I try to be really mindful on my stories and have vulnerable moments, but I don't just go on and cry and say I'm sad.
It's your job to protect you. It's your job to protect your mental well-being, the people you surround yourself, the people that you follow, and there is no harm to that, right? To you saying, I'm going to protect myself. I have been very liberal with the mute button. I'm not unfollowing everybody, but ever since before these elections, people are so polarized. And it's like, if any of us had conversations in real life, I bet we agree on more than we disagree on, right?
Yeah.
So unfollow people or mute them or whatever you can do for 30 days on Facebook if it is causing you some internal distress.
Yeah, like if you feel some type of way, like you're like, is this person's post bringing me value and joy? If not, just mute it. Who cares? But I always try to share, hey, I'm feeling this type of way. I'm not happy with my body this week, and I'm dealing with a little bit of dysfunction. But this is how I'm handling it, and I'm trying to stay neutral, and this is what I'm doing about it. Right? I always, same with these podcast episodes. If I share something like that, I always try to say, hey, I am struggling with this. I am human. I am normal, but this is how I'm navigating it. Or I might say, hey, I'm struggling with this and I haven't quite figured out how to navigate this thing yet. Right? Like that's really what it's about at the end of the day, is just saying, like being super, like Jess said, radical honesty, being super aware and in tune with yourself, your feeling, your decisions. And then obviously taking it one step at a time from there.
And maybe that inspiration can be a trigger for action.
Yep.
Not an emotional response. Maybe it's an opportunity for me to say, why is it bothering me so much when this girl posts this thing? Maybe it's because I'm feeling insecure. I should go work on that. Like maybe it really is a good opportunity for you to look internally and say,
why am I so, is a beautiful thing.
Why am I so triggered by everything? Maybe that is a me problem, right? But maybe you can look for those opportunities rather than just jumping to comparison. Other things are like, I guess the shame of unrealistic expectations. A lot of times people hire us and they're like, oh, I don't know. I just thought I'd be seeing better results by now because I see my friends doing whatever diet or on Ozempic or whatever, and they lost 30 pounds in the last month and a half, right? Okay, if we're the experts in this field, let us guide you on what actual healthy sustainable fat loss looks like. Usually it's like a pound or up to 2. Really, it's usually not too much more than that. A half a pound to 2 pounds a week on average. It doesn't mean every single week. Sometimes the scale might go up, then the scale might drop 3 pounds. But on average, sustainable fat loss, not just loss of water weight, muscle weight, a combo of the 3, is usually like 1% of your body weight week over week if you're doing it well. That's a lot different than these unsustainable practices that people share the results of. So women have these crazy unrealistic expectations. Then they feel like they're failing. And it's like, if we could just readjust our expectations, they would realize, oh, I'm not failing at all. I'm making perfect progress based on what I'm doing, and it's sustainable and it feels good. And I'm not going to lose my muscle mass. My metabolism is going to be better off, right? So just adjusting your expectations some can really help. And again, I don't think women do this on purpose. I think we've been conditioned to have these unrealistic expectations. But I think that that's a lot of the work that we do with our clients is setting expectations before we even get to whatever the phase is, right? Hey, we're about to go into a muscle building phase. The scale might go up. You're probably going to freak out and be uncomfortable. Anytime that happens, I'm looking at your inches. As long as our inches are the same or lower, as long as you're getting stronger, we're doing it the right way, right? We're setting those expectations up before it happens so that the data becomes the focus, not the emotional meltdown that one day the scale goes up. It's like, okay, cool. If we're building muscle in the right way, muscle weighs something. We might actually see the scale go up, but inches shouldn't be increasing. That's good. That's good outcomes. The more as coaches we can communicate those expectations, the better support our clients are going to feel from us. I'm speaking to coaches here because I think that's an area that I've learned from a lot. Like when I started, it's like, well, I know I'm bringing them down the right path. Well, they don't know that, right? We need to communicate that to them before they are in that meltdown phase so that they see it like, oh, this is why she's bringing me through this path. It makes sense because now the client wants to do those things because they understand it, right? And I'm not saying, I feel like a lot of times people are like, oh, you don't need to give the science or the nuances because that's not what your clients want to hear. It's like, I'm not breaking down, okay, this muscle does this function and it inserts here. It's not like that, but they do need to understand the why if they want to be able to sustain it for the rest of their life, like at a high level, speak in layman's terms, but help them understand why you're suggesting something. Because now suddenly if it makes sense to me, now I'm incentivized to actually want to do it because I do want that outcome.
I want to tack on to what you just said and then also give a little bit of a different angle to this too. So a woman yesterday told me that her cortisol is high. She's got all these like sex hormone dysregulation. She's like, my functional provider just keeps telling me to fast and do keto, but like I've read so much about fasting being not favorable for high cortisol. And I was like, well, did your functional provider tell you why they're suggesting that? And she was like, well, no. And I was like, ask why. What is their reason, right, for that thing? But the other angle I wanted to give to this, and this is like something that I feel in business that I think gives a little bit of a different angle outside of fitness, is that I am a very like type A, high achieving person. I thrive on doing and success and all of those things, right? And it's not that I need a pat on the back, because 99% of the time, no one is here to give me a pat on the back in this life. But I work from home by myself all day and nobody really knows the extent of what I do. But ultimately, I think so many women get stuck in the trap in business, in career, in relationships, in fitness, where you think you're doing all of these things. And then you have this shame of like, but I'm doing this, I'm doing this. You're right, your plate is full. You're like, I'm always doing. But a lot of times I'll see women who say they're doing, but their version of doing is saving a bunch of recipes or researching or planning or making a marketing plan for their business. I'm making this perfect plan. I'm making this perfect business. I'm making this perfect meal plan for next week. But then there's no follow through on it, right? And it's like, yeah, you're doing a lot of stuff, but it's not
the most important thing
that applies to what you want, right? It's still not aligning. So then there's shame around that, because you're like, air quotes, I'm doing everything right. No, you're just thinking about doing things. You're not actually doing anything. And now you feel shame because you're like, but I'm trying and nothing's happening and I'm a failure, right? And you've created this negative feedback loop for yourself to completely unnecessarily, right? Or you're doing red light therapy and you're like, I'm doing breath work every day and my cortisol face is still here, whatever, right? Whatever expectation social media has given you. And it's like, hold on. You're not moving. You're picking up pebbles when there's these giant boulders in front of you that are standing in your way, right? Go ahead and chuck pebbles down the street, but you're still not going to get through until you move that boulder, right? So I think it's making sure that that's aligned too.
We see this a lot with women who work so freaking hard at the gym and they don't see change. Like think of the treadmill, the common treadmill girl that you see at the gym, right? Women go and they bust their ass doing cardio 5-6 days a week. They go to body pump classes, they go to Orange Theory classes, and they don't see physique change. It's not because you need to be doing more. It's because we just need to shift gears a little bit and do a little bit more effective stuff, right? Again, I tend to lift 3 days a week, but it's really, really effective. It's more effective in terms of what I am doing in those 45 to 1 hour sessions, 45 minute to 1 hour sessions. It's more effective, so I don't have to keep grinding more and more and more. I say this because I have a lot of empathy for those situations, because I do believe most women are trying really, really hard. They've just been misguided by an industry that is meant to suck us in to buy all these classes and do all this stuff. And you have to move more and eat less. And it's like, whoa, if we just nourish our body and lift like men are told to do, guess what? Our bodies start responding and it's pretty wild. So a lot of times, it's the unrealistic expectations of what you think you have to do versus what's actually impactful for somebody who's successful in that thing. Okay. And then decision fatigue and like cognitive overload can make it tough when there's a million different things you could do, right? That's again, our job as a coach is to say, there's 5 million different areas. There's tons of pebbles and rocks we could turn over. My job is every week in a check-in to say, hey, client, zooming out based on everything I see from your inputs, these are the 1 or 2 most important things I think you could work on this week. How does that feel for you? How can we set up some sort of system around it? The systems I think are also really important, right? We're not just saying, okay, go do all these things. It's like, okay, how am I going to make that easier on future me? Because if I have cinnamon sugar, if Brett buys cinnamon sugar Pop-Tarts and they're on the counter, I'm more likely to eat them, right? If I put them on the top shelf in the pantry and I don't see them as soon as I open it up, I'm less likely to eat them. There's all these little tips and tricks and tools that we can do to make our roadblocks easier to overcome, where we stop getting in our own way. And a lot of that is the value that a good coach is going to give you. It's like, I can't tell you all the hundreds of different tools I've given clients because every single client is totally different, right? Like for one person, it might be pack a gym bag so that when you leave your office, you don't have to go home first. Because if you go home first, you're going to want to sit on the couch, right? Like let's just eliminate a step and make a habit easier. There's lots of different systems we can set up so that it is not you fighting your own willpower. It's you creating an environment that makes healthier choices easier.
Yeah. And also I think too, like we work with a lot of women who are like former D1 athletes and had these really high expectations of themselves at one point. And it's like, hey, you're a mom of 3 and you work 60 hours a week. You're not a D1 athlete anymore. You're not here to train to perform. If you're not working out, but in your head, you're like, but when I was an athlete and I looked really good, I was working out 5 days a week. That doesn't matter. There is a massive identity disconnect here. Work out for 10 minutes twice a week if you're not doing anything. Start there. You're going, of course, you're not going to have time to like tomorrow carve out 5 hours of your life to dedicate to working out per week, but carve out 20 minutes and then grow it from there. Right. So that's the other thing too about like meeting yourself where you're at and decision fatigue and feeling overwhelmed. And where do I start? You get like analysis paralysis. It's like, start small. It might mean adding 1 serving of protein per day. It might be tracking 1 day per week. It might be getting 1,000 more steps a day or going to bed 20 minutes earlier, right? It can be the simplest things that move the needle, but you're so all or nothing that you end up doing literally nothing, right?
And consistency is better than all or nothingness because we do see a lot of women who are like, yep, I work out 5 days a week, 6 days a week. And I'll say like, well, for how long? For the past 5 weeks. Okay, well, what were you doing before that? Well, I go through these spurts, right? So I work out 5 or 6 days a week and then I lose some weight and then I get burnt out and then I do nothing for 2 months and then I go back to it. And it's like, okay, how about for the next 6 months, we try to work out 2 or 3 days a week and just see what happens. And it's not going to feel like some fun high because you're not going to see the instant gratification, but also we can avoid that burnout. Me and my brother use this analogy all the time for people of our generation. I feel like, well, most people will get this. On Nintendo, if you're playing Mario Party, there's this game that was like the slot car derby. And if you're playing Nintendo and you're going as fast as you can on your slot car, eventually your car spins out, right? I feel like a lot of us do that. I do this in my own life because I'm like an all or nothing 100% person. And I go 120%. And again, my husband is steady. He's over here going 80%, 100% of the time, making more progress than me because I then burn out, right? That's what ends up happening with a lot of
the hair, like tip story.
Right. So you end up spinning out on your little slot car while the other people who are just chugging along are passing you. That's what's happening when people are doing these effective workouts 3 days a week and you think you have to work out 7 days a week and then you burn out every other month, right? Dial it back. It's not sexy. It can be mundane, right? It's not some big transformation. You are going to get further, just like Jill said, the tortoise and the hare. Okay. It is okay to not want to do something. It's okay to be not willing to go for that goal right now. That's okay, but own the outcomes. If the outcomes start to be so overwhelming that you're complaining about it all the time, maybe now you're ready to reevaluate and shift what you're willing to do. That's okay too. It's okay to change your mind. So we want to kind of talk about now what you can do, what to do when it feels like too much. How can we actually create some sort of system to align whatever your inputs are with your expectations and really own your shit?
And like, what's realistic, right? We talk about auditing a lot because, again, just knowing where you're at, what you're doing, what you're not doing, what you're willing to do, what's realistic for this season of life. I have a client right now who was like great with her inputs and spring sports for her kids ramps up. And she's like, oh, shoot, I don't think I can actually commit to what I committed to before. And I'm like, great, let's pivot, right? Let's rework this plan a little bit. So it's not about like lowering your standards or selling yourself short. It's just about matching your efforts to what your available bandwidth is at that time, right? If you're navigating high stress and all of these demands in life, and this feels like too much, well, balance it out, right? You're going to rework your priorities. And this season of life, you're prioritizing other things, right? We can't excel in every, we talk about like the wheel of life sometimes when we're setting goals with clients. You can't be a 10 out of 10 in every area. It's just not realistic because none of us have the bandwidth for that, being normal humans with jobs and kids and responsibilities, right?
Especially with workouts. Like me and Emily, my friend who I work out with quite often, she's a yoga instructor. Whenever we're lifting, we're like, man, wouldn't it be so cool if we had time to do an hour of mobility every other day and lift 3 days a week and do yoga once a week and do cardio 2 times. And it's like, yeah, that'd be really nice. and we would feel so good physically, but you only have so much time in a week, and we want to spend time with our kids, and we both work, and we have, right? So when we're writing our programming, like her and I, every other month we'll write programming, then we'll follow it for 4 or 5 weeks. When we're writing our programming, it's like, okay, well, maybe I'm not going to get the muscle build outcomes that I want, because it's worth it for me to use that third day towards some performance work and some mobility, right? Because I need to have balance in this area of life, and I only have time to go to the gym 3 days a week because I work a lot, right? Like, it's okay. Readjust your expectations and adjust your inputs based on what your capacity is. So yeah, if I had 5, 6 days a week, I'd probably have like the best glutes, the best delts. I could do all that, right? I don't have that, and that's okay. It's okay. I'm at a different stage of life right now.
Yeah. So if you have a goal and you're like, I'm so overwhelmed, analysis paralysis, I don't know where to start. It's not like give up, you suck, and you're not capable of this. It's like, where can I dial it back, right? Where can I recalibrate for a second to just be strategic and adjust and meet myself where I'm at a little bit more? And guess what? When you dial it back and you start consistently hitting those smaller inputs, you might be like, wait, I don't like the outcome of this. Maybe I am a little bit more willing to ramp this up a little bit. And that's totally okay, right? It's just really about, like Jess said, what you can consistently sustain. And then once you're hitting those inputs consistently, those smaller ones, you're going to have momentum and energy and excitement to add a little bit more and add a little bit more, right? And that's really the point at the end of the day. But if you have no momentum, right, an object in motion stays in motion. You get moving first, do something, and then tack onto that from there, and you can ramp things up. But if you're just waiting for the time in life where everything aligns and every scenario is perfect and you can work out 4 days a week and lose all the weight and be perfect with everything,
it ain't happening.
Gonna die. Never.
It happened in college, and it will never have. We will never have that time.
Yeah, it's just not going to happen, right? And that's what I ask people. They're like, "This isn't a good time in life." I'm like, "When is? When you're tired? When
also it's
what?"
Also, oftentimes when it's not a good time in life is when we make the best progress with our clients, because everybody can be consistent during the easy life seasons, right? But usually when we fall off track, I'll put in air quotes again, we're always doing just a little bit that we can do. When we fall off track are those seasons of life where stuff's hard, right? That's the valuable time to be like, okay, this was really hard. Now can we work through it, and can we find some tools so that next time I'm a little bit more prepared, versus hiding from it and being like, I didn't do anything, so I'm just not going to check in with my coach. It's like, no, those are the most valuable times so that we can figure out the tools that are best for you.
Yep, absolutely. And it's not relying on motivation, right? Like if you just have systems and structure in place and you're auditing and pivoting and recalibrating, that momentum is going to be built, like I said, through that repeated action. And when your actions consistently match what your intention is and the outcome you're looking for, progress is very predictable at that point. You're going to know exactly what you're going to get from your actions, but you don't know if you're just doing nothing or you're doing everything, right? You have no middle ground. So you have to find essentially balance like in between there. So
key takeaways.
Yeah, we want to give you your key takeaways for this episode, like we do for every episode. If you're like stuck, out of alignment, whatever the case is, and if you feel a little bit called out or like whatever about this episode, good. That was kind of the point, right? This to give you that like awareness. Step one, right, is awareness that you're not doing what you want to do. Yeah.
So one, come up with a goal that you're willing to commit to for the next 30 days. And then maybe write a list of willings, not willings, and then loop back around and see if that goal is actually something you want to work towards. It's okay if it's not. If it does not align right now, cool. Come up with a different goal that feels better. Second, create an environment that supports that goal, right? Maybe you do prep your meals once a week just to make the weekdays easier. Maybe you do come up with some routine so that you have your gym bag ready to go when you leave work in the afternoon, because you know you're not going to go back out if you go home first. Maybe you're blocking off time as if you have an appointment with somebody else, but you're blocking it off for your own goal, whatever that goal is, right? Again, we're talking fitness. This could be anything. Maybe I want to work on my marriage, so I'm blocking off quality time with my husband every night, right? Like maybe it's something like that, but you have to come up with some sort of tangible, how am I going to fit this thing in my life? Do I have the capacity for it? Track your inputs, track your behavior, not your outcomes, okay? The outcomes come with time when you put in reps. If you want to get good at that instrument that you're practicing, you have to actually practice. You have to put in time a couple times a week, a couple times a day, right? Or whatever the case may be. If somebody complains about outcomes as a client, my first question is, okay, what did your protein look like this week? How did your lifts go? And then I didn't. Okay, cool. Then we're not talking outcomes, right? We know what the behaviors are that need to change. How can we set up next week to make it more feasible for you? Next, schedule weekly check-ins with yourself. I like weekly and quarterly check-ins because maybe every quarter I change my goals. Maybe my life season has changed. Maybe I'm in a different place and I don't really care about this other goal anymore. But some sort of check-in to say, okay, what's working, what's not? Do I need to adjust my inputs? Am I avoiding ownership in some area because it doesn't really feel good to have to look myself in the mirror when I'm complaining about this thing? Adjust as needed. Don't just abandon the process or hide from your inputs when things are hard, right? So just because I didn't do something last week doesn't mean I avoid my weekly check-in with myself. And again, we do weekly check-ins with our clients for this reason. Okay, what can we shift? What do we want to add more of? What feels good? You can do this with yourself. There's so many habit journals out there that you could buy where literally weekly it just says, okay, let's come up with some habits. At the end of each week, what was working? What wasn't working? What are you thankful for this week? What do we want to add more of? Who should we be spending more time with because it is healthy for us? Who should we be spending less time with because it's unhealthy for us? There are lots of journals out there that you can buy that can help you through this process. It's not something that you have to like pull out of thin air in your brain. Number 5, normalize maintenance as a win. This is specific to fitness goals. You do not always have to have fat loss or performance goals, right? You don't always need to be lifting your heaviest squat or hitting PRs in the gym or losing weight or transforming your physique at every step. Sometimes maintenance is the goal, right? I talked about this with myself right now. Maintaining my strength is awesome. Eating enough and getting more sleep. Sleep oftentimes is more important for me right now than working out 4 days a week because I'm in that season of life and my littlest does not sleep well and she ends up in our bed oftentimes, right? That's okay. Maintenance is an okay goal. You are not any lesser because you don't choose to achieve more. Maybe you feel really good at where you are in life. Try not to compare to other people's goals. And then last but not least, get support if you feel stuck. Ownership does not mean you have to go through it alone. For me, right? Meeting up with my friend to work out a couple times a week is great. It's great accountability, right? I know what to do in the gym, but guess what? Her texting and say, hey, I'm on my way. If there's a day that I might not have shown up, I'm probably more likely to show up because I have some sort of accountability there. If you don't even know where to start, or if you don't know that you are on the right track, hire a business coach. Hire somebody like us for fitness goals specifically, right? Like get an expert on your side. It doesn't even have to be hiring somebody. There's so many free resources now. Listen to a really good podcast, read a book. Like you can close those gaps faster by learning from somebody else's experience. If you feel stuck, you do not have to problem solve alone. Oftentimes, if we problem solve alone, we end up spinning our wheels because we keep trying these things that we think are going to help, or we end up dipping our hand in a million different buckets instead of trying one thing that might work, right? Turning over all those pebbles and being like, well, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this. And it's like, whoa, if we just did the most important thing first, maybe this outcome would have already happened, right? So get support when needed. Don't feel like you have to be alone. And it's okay to change your goals, to change your mind, to not be willing to address something right now. It's okay. Give yourself grace.
And, this is not the most efficient system in the world, but I think it gives really good perspective. So I am a sticky note gal through and through. I have sticky notes for everything and I have a planner, and every week I have 2 sticky notes that have my big overarching, hey, these are big projects that need to get done soon. And then I have my week, right? That's scheduled out. But then every single day, every night before the next day, I make okay, this is what needs to get done today. My little just check off as I go situation. But one of the ways that I audit myself in this not so efficient system, I'm sure there's a way to streamline this for people, is that if I keep moving a sticky note over to the next page again and again, I'll tell my husband, I'm fucking sick of looking at this sticky note with these words. It's stressing me out. When that happens, that typically means that I wasn't specific enough in that thing, right? I didn't break that down enough for myself into tangible goals. If you want to lose 30 pounds and you're going to make a sticky note for tomorrow, are you going to write lose 30 pounds on it? No. You're going to break that down and say, today, what do I need to do? And that's really what you should do when it comes to achieving anything, right? If I'm not writing down, I want to grow my business by the end of the year. No, I'm like, okay, what are the specific things that I need to do every single day that move the needle for me in that direction, right? And what am I having to sacrifice, right? Maybe you're writing a little bit of a pros and cons list if it's a big thing like that. But ultimately, you're not going to write lose 30 pounds on your to-do list, right? You're going to write go to the gym, eat 100 grams of protein, plan my meals for next week, right? So the sticky note is just, I'm not saying go write a bunch of sticky notes.
I love this. I love this.
It works very well for me, but ultimately you're using that perspective in whatever way works for you, right?
This is like the dorkiest thing, but when I used to be in IT recruiting, they have like Agile is like a system of project management. They literally do that every single morning. They have a meeting with sticky notes on a board or a dry erase board. And it's like, okay, what is urgent today? What are today's tasks? What's the next day's tasks? You'll hear me talk about this, my to-dos versus today's concept. Me and Brett went to therapy for our marriage, right? And I'm like, this is a him problem. This is not a me, right? And the lady's like, dude, you're highly anxious. We got to work on this. And she ends up teaching me this method that I still use today of to-dos versus today's. Like, Jess, you have this to-do list that's like 1,000 pages long. No wonder you're stressed out. You have no time to actually accomplish these things, and you're putting all this pressure on yourself. Every day, here's the rule that Kathy gave me in therapy. Every day, you have this ongoing to-do list. That's cool. You can pull up to 3 things to your today list. Right? Maybe today I know I only have time for one thing because I have a commitment later with my kids, right? That's okay. I'm only allowed to pull one thing over today. Her rule for me was you're always allowed to work forward, but you're never allowed to work back. So I am not putting it on my today list unless I actually have the time, the capacity, and the bandwidth. If I get my today's done, now I can work ahead in the week, right? But I just plan out each week at a time like that. And it allows me to feel a little bit more manageable. And her analogy was like, okay, if you're redoing your kitchen, if you're going to need to organize the whole thing, you don't say Monday, I'm going to do the entire thing. You say, I'm going to do the junk drawer and the silverware drawer on Monday, right? Make it attainable, make it achievable, and make it very, very small. And then you feel good because you're like, wow, I checked that thing off. I went for a 10-minute walk today. I didn't say I have to work out 2 hours a day, 5 days a week, right? So small actionable steps, but I really like the pull from my to-do list because now my to-do list is shrinking over time and I'm not becoming paralyzed by how overwhelming it is because I'm only focusing on 1 or 2 things at a time.
Right. And if I see myself moving the sticky note over, I'm like, what do I need to do to hold myself a little bit more accountable here? Is it overwhelming when I look at it? Am I avoiding touching my laptop because I know that thing's staring me back in the face? Is it that I need to break it down? Is it that I need to give myself a deadline, right? It's easy to say I want to lose 30 pounds in 2025, but it's April. I have until December. But if you're like, okay, if I want to lose 25 pounds in 2025, I need to eat at least 100 grams of protein. I need to work up to working out and lifting weights 3 days a week, right? And that's when you start to break it down. And those actions and those little daily inputs are what are going to ultimately shift your identity to allow your behaviors to align. And genuinely, if your daily actions don't support that goal, that outcome is always going to feel out of reach, right? You're always going to be like, I'm never going to hit this because now I don't trust myself because I'm moving that sticky note every week. And I'm like, I don't get anything done. What have I even been doing? Right. I actually had Jess say, hey, I'm overwhelmed with my schedule at one point. And I was like, hey, here's a website. I want you to audit your day and send it to me and tell me. And not because I think she's wasting time, but it's like, where are you putting maybe too much time that isn't
She's effective? Helping me reevaluate priorities and saying, okay, like there are a lot of tasks. Let's look at the tasks. Let's see how we can prioritize better. And maybe we do need to eliminate stuff, or maybe I do need to delegate stuff to somebody else because I'm spending too much time on this one task versus another task. That's okay. But auditing it is really the only way to know.
And you're always allowed to pause, take a second, reframe, pivot, shift directions, but you can't just spin in circles, right? What leaves a lot of people stuck is having one foot in this direction and one foot in this direction, but never fully committing to something, never fully committing to a deficit because I don't want to give up my social life, never fully committing to maintenance because I don't want to gain weight. It's like, you're sitting in this
Pick a lane.
area, you're going to be stuck
Yeah.
forever. You're never going to see the results that whoever so-and-so is getting, because she's fully committing to whatever season she's in and whatever choices she's making. So fully commit, fully own it, fully align with it. Make sure you know what the outcome is of what you're doing. It'll never feel unattainable again at that point, because you're going to have the expectations. You'll never be disappointed or any of those things. You're just going to be moving the needle. And I really think that's ultimately the main break.
That's it. Books I love. If you guys love this topic and want to do more, The Compound Effect is excellent. It's about how little things snowball if you continue to do the inputs. Atomic Habits is great if you are like, oh, I see this pattern. Here's my roadblock. How do I actually create a system around it? That's a really good one that helps you kind of break patterns. Eat the Frog. Eat That Frog is a good one. It's the concept of do the hardest thing. Rip the Band-Aid off, do the hardest thing and get it over with, because now everything else in your day feels easier. The Energy Bus. This is a silly analogy of, hey, only positivity on my energy bus, right? It sounds really fluffy, but the concept is like, instead of complaining, let's look at the things we can control. All of those are books that I've read more than one time that I think are really super impactful in this area of like owning your choices and owning your stuff. So if you guys want to do some more reading or listening to audiobooks, those are places I would start.
Love it. That was your tough love reality check for the day, to own your shit. Whatever you decide, whatever you want, we'll send in that direction, and you'll never be disappointed or upset with the outcome. So hope that was helpful. Hope that was the reality check you all needed, the gut punch that you needed. And that's all for this episode, and we will see you guys next time.
Bye.